what's new? How you doing? How's life? I'm abducting my hip right down. You can't even tell, can you? Okay. Well, actually, a good question. All right, which hip abductor am I using? Whoa. Which hip abductor am I using? Which hip abductor do you think I'm feeling more right now? Which one's starting to ache? Right or left? Right. Yep. I'm using both hip abductors, right? This one is doing this. What's this one doing?
Stabilizing.
Stabilizing. This one's actually starting to ache as I'm doing this. This one I feel nothing. Okay? So your hip abduction on your day-to-day life is in what activity? Walking. Because if I didn't have a hip abductor, walk, let's pretend I surgically removed your hip abductors. Show me how you walk. What would
do the worm?
It'd be like that, right? It'd be because you would have the stability. You would do that. You would do that, right? Every step would be like that if you had no hip abductors. So let's hear it for the hip abductors. All right. Now, the glute med is not the only muscle that provides stability to the pelvis when we're in the mid-stanza gait. Remember, every muscle has these primary movers have friends that help it out, and they also have enemies, antagonists. All right. What are the friends of the hip abductor? What are the glute med's friends that help it out in a normal pattern? What other muscles help stabilize the pelvis? TFL, QL, and big one. Big one. Piriformis. Okay. So the other muscles that help the glute med, piriformis, TFL, QL. Right. Now that's normal for those muscles to be involved. Every time you take a step, you're going to get a little engagement of all those muscles. However, if we have inhibition, and the one thing you said, you talked about tight glute muscles. In this model, these primary movers don't get tight; they get weaker and inhibited. So, just bring that away. So, if you have an inhibited or weak glute med, what will the synergistic muscles have to do? So remember, if I go to the gym and lift weights and do this 100 times, how's this muscle going to feel? Sore and aching because I use it too much. If I use this muscle to raise my TFL too much, if I use my QL too much, if I use my piriformis too much, how's it going to feel? Sore. And someone did a learning objective about trigger points in overused muscles. Muscle fatigue leads to trigger points, which was interesting, right? So if you overuse a muscle in general, you'll get a focal trigger point. And trigger points cause what? What kind of pain patterns? Referred pain. Okay, so you could get a QL overuse syndrome, that's going to cause referred pain out here. You can get a TFL overuse, it's going to cause a trigger point that's causing knee pain. And if you don't address that, you're never going to really fix the problem. So those are the muscles we're going to look at for overuse. The antagonist, what's the antagonist of hip abduction? Adductors. So the adductor muscle we would expect to be what? Overused, more tight? Tight. Okay, so this is how this all works together. That's what we look for. There's certain visual signs. Remember, everything we do here is associated with a visual sign first, sometimes a tactile sign. Sometimes we can't see something, we have to feel instead. All right, so we're going to look for what we call a TFL groove. If I go to the gym and work this muscle a lot, eventually what you're going to see here is some definition, right? Because I've worked this muscle. Same thing with the TFL. If you overwork your TFL because it's being used too much, you start to see some definition. And the way definition looks on the TFL is what we call a TFL groove. I don't know if he's got it or not, but normally this side of the leg should look fairly smooth. If we see like a popped out muscle here with like a groove in the middle of it, because that's just the way the TFL grows, that's a TFL groove. That's a sign of overuse of that muscle. Now, if someone's a weightlifter, bodybuilder, if they're very fit, can that be normal? Yeah. So that's why we do a confirmatory test afterwards. So let's look and see if we got TFL. Can you? Right. Unfortunately, no. That's why we gotta look at lots of photos. So what you would see would be that TFL kind of popped out right there, and you would see like almost like a little line, like it's got two parts to the TFL. There's like a little groove in the middle.
Hey.
Probably is. Okay, that's a TFL groove, which unfortunately we're not seeing. So that's one visual sign of a gluten-mediated problem. The other one, and this is a really hard one to see, is face us over here, is adductor notch. As the adductor becomes tight and stretched, you actually get like a little notch right here. So if you just pull the shorts up a little bit, let's see if it's adductors. Right in here, you get like a little, yeah, like a little notch. This is one I gotta tell you. I've looked at hundreds of people, and I don't see it often. So, but that is one thing you can see. That adductor becomes really tight. You almost get like the adductor right in here. It's sort of just like a little groove. So we don't necessarily see that. All right, so let's think of our other muscles. What would a sign, now we can't really see the piriformis, right? It's even hard to palpate the piriformis. So how would you see visually that there was a piriformis issue? Foot flare. So let's go ahead and show us a foot flare. Okay, do it on one side. So if someone's standing like that, you start to think that there's a tight, overworked piriformis. Let's not say tight, let's keep our words consistent. Overworked piriformis. And it's flared out like that. So, but it might just be the way the person stood. They might have just gone like this. So what I do is, regardless of their foot stance, I say, okay, let me have you march in place. Look straight forward and march in place. So if a person does this, and then you say stop, they're going to get a normal foot stance. So if you see them like that, even if you don't see them like that, tell them to march in place, and then stop. And that will give you a more accurate read on what's going on. Stop. Those are the visual signs of the glute med. There's not really, well, there's a palpatory sign for it. Remember the glute max? We kind of went directly on the glutes like this. Just a light tap with the back of the fingers. I'm going to check out your low back here and this area here. I'm going to do this when you low back. Okay? I like to just, I don't like to just sort of like assault, I sort of start here, even though there's no reason to do it, just so it's kind of feels like a little bit more user-friendly. Okay, all right, now check this area. Okay, no difference. This is when it really starts to get a little more, you have to explain what you're doing. Because where's the glute med? It's really on the side. So you have to assess. Normally, if you were to look at skin, you would see that it is normal to have a bit of a scoop right here. Depends on the person. Some people do, some people don't. A little bit of a scoop. What you're looking to see with your fingers is if there's like a bigger indentation on one side. So if it's present, there's a bigger scoop here. By scoop, I mean like a hollowed out area. If there's a big scoop on one side and not on the other side, that's a sign of an inhibited glute med. Now, if there's an equal scoop on both sides and it's a large scoop, doesn't mean it's bilateral inhibited glute med. So sometimes this provides value, sometimes it doesn't. And the way you assess it is you really have to just get there and kind of just feel like that. So I'm going to check right on the side here, and you feel to see if there's any difference, and not really. So those are the tests for the visual and the tactile sense of finding a glute med problem. And then the confirmatory test, because remember, every visual finding has a test that confirms if indeed we have this problem, is the hip abduction test. Because this might just be his normal, he might just have a TFL groove because he works out. So we got to get a table. Or can we have you lie on this table?
Oh yeah.
We'll collapse. It's on your side. hip abduction, you're gonna bend your bottom leg and straighten this leg and pull this up. Okay, so hip abduction should be performed ideally only with the glute max as a primary mover. If you do that, you should see no hip height. You should not see this joint move in this direction. If that happens, it means that he's using his QL to accomplish the hip abduction. If, as he lifts his leg, if it goes forward, it tells me there's a tight TFL. If it goes backwards, there's a tight piriformis. Okay, so go ahead and lift your leg up, a little higher, and down. And so you're going to lift it about this high, and then down, okay? So look what happens here. Lift up, and down. And again, a little bit of a hip hike, okay? So even though we didn't see the visual signs, I'm starting to think there might be some QL involved in here. So I'm going to palpate the QL when he does this. Okay, lift again. There's a little bit of QL involvement. So I'm going to go ahead and actually see if there's a trigger point. Any soreness in there. Bearable. Okay. A little bit of a overactive activity of QL. All right, the other side. Total pass here. So basically, you should see no movement here. It should look like this. That's normal. That's a normal. Okay. All right, go ahead. Okay. More. Oh, look what's happening. It's going to the front, right? Okay, and you have more of a hip hike here. And it's his right side, which he injured, and down. Okay, again? Okay, and down. So I'm going to palpate the QL while he does that. Go ahead. Again. A lot more activity on this QL. I'm going to look for trigger points. Unbearable? Okay. And let's check the sore.
Bearable. Not bearable.
Not bearable. Okay. So this guy comes in, he's got knee problems, he's got referred pain to the glutes, he's got chronic low back subluxations that never get better, he's got achiness of the knee. He doesn't need ultrasound. Right? He needs you to work out these muscles here. He needs you to work out, and look how the treatment's the same thing as the assessment. He needs you to work out these muscles, and he needs rehab on the glute max. I mean, okay? And those are stability exercises. Okay, things you can read on glute med. Okay, this is great for glute med. We call it clocks because you do like the hours of a clock. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Work your way back. We can do bridges, which we've done before. Bridges are great. Rehab. So you've got. See, in my mind, I love patients like this because I convert this person from "I'll see you once or twice, adjust your low back, and you'll feel better" to "let's do 6 weeks of rehab." And patients like this love it because it's like, well, look, you've got this thing that's. Your prognosis, let's take your model. Your prognosis is I'm going to adjust you, you have some low back pain. I'm adjusting you a couple times, you feel great. Chiropractic is great for low back pain. But you see all these things wrong with your body here I showed you. This will not get better unless you are actively working on it and fixing it. It takes about 6 weeks. Exercise program you can make twice a week, blah, 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 blah. Prognosis with that is excellent for the long term. If you just do the short term work, it's good, but you'll be seeing me off and on for pain. So that's how I would use prognosis. You get 2 options. Alright? So there's still more of the functional assessment, there's still a lot more we can do, so you can add in gait, breathing, all those other things. Right? Okay.
And